Hey everybody, welcome back to my Eurovision React Review channel. So it has been 24 hours since my initial reaction of Blanka Solo winning in Poland and representing Poland at Eurovision 2023. I had assumed that there would be a lot of anger towards my feelings, but I had no idea the context behind a lot of that anger. I woke up and I profess I didn't look at social media. I didn't watch the national final. I didn't look at social media because I wanted my reaction to be genuine. I wanted my reaction to the winner, knowing the winner, finding out the winner, to be genuine. And it was. And at the end of the day, that reaction was true. Was I happy? Yes. Why was I happy? Well, number one, it was my number one song. And one or two people have commented basically saying, why? It's like, what do you mean, why? I know there's a whole debate about whether music can be analysed objectively. Well, sometimes songs just connect with you. And moreover, sometimes songs just connect with you at a particular moment in your particular life. Sometimes I don't think there's necessarily human words to explain why you gel with a song. And I feel I don't have to explain that. Like, I'm not kind of like the piece around a YouTuber that's able to dissect analytically songs with the music, language and expertise. I've never done that. I just like the song. So that's the first reason why I was excited. The second reason why I was excited is because I listened to that song non-stop. I have been listening to that song non-stop. So as a result of that, of course I was happy. And of course, I mean, I did a whole video where I ranked the songs and I put it in front of Jann. And number 3, I was genuinely surprised. I thought Jann had it in the bag. Now, I will go on to explore and explain and discuss all the reasons why maybe Jann didn't have it in the bag. But ultimately, my excitement came from genuine shock and surprise. I didn't think Blanka would win. So for those 3 reasons alone, that's why I was excited. And I'm not gonna take back those emotions. And thank you very much for kind of sound, rational people who have basically informed me so much in regards to the context of this win, but have also said, I'm happy that you're happy, but also, like, in that video, I made 3 kind of, because I professed that it was my favourite, because I professed I was happy, it gave me more free reign to be critical. I didn't realise at this point that everyone was being critical. Pretty much every YouTuber is saying how disgusted they are, how they think the song is so bad. Like, even in my video, I made 3 references that were critical. I said, vocally, she's not the best, and she can be helped at Eurovision with a pre-recorded backing vocal as long as they don't cheat and obviously try and replace the live vocal with that. I did say that. Number 2, I said I was slightly underwhelmed with the choreography, particularly Blanka's movement. I felt that the energy was lacking, and as a result of that, I was slightly underwhelmed with the visual aspects of the choreography. And number 3, the general staging, I said, was a little lackluster. And moreover, I made it very clear it didn't elevate the song. And as a result of that, I did say in Liverpool, they need to go with a completely different, fresh idea. So it wasn't like I was sat there basically saying this was the best thing since sliced bread either. Want to make that very clear. I think what I'm worried about is because I don't want people to think that I am justifying the way that this has won. The way that this has won, it would seem, stinks. Horrific. And as a result of that, I don't want people to think that I vindicated the way it won. And moreover, I really hope people don't think I vindicated TVP. I think some people might forget or not know, in comparison to other YouTubers, that are not inside Poland, I have a bit more contextual knowledge, being part Polish, having family and friends in Poland, and particularly having a lot of friends in the LGBT community. I know about TVP. I know their close links. The current political party in Poland who continually do anti-LGBT rhetoric. I know TVP consistently air homophobic content on their channel. So I'm never going to ever support TVP as a broadcaster, ever. That's number 1. And number 2, my reaction video was based purely on my love for the song, and that was it. And I'm, of course, super, super disappointed. Now I know more about how it won. And as a result of that, I think it's absolutely disgraceful in regards to Polish people not having the song that they want. And moreover, the artists competing. I kind of have a philosophy whereby something, even if you can't prove something to be true, the more and more things to support it, the more likely it is true. And it would seem that the evidence has mounted up in such a way that it has to be true that this national final stinks. It stinks. It should never have happened. And that saddens me. It saddens me in regards to how I now feel about the song. I mean, I can't change how I feel about the song. I love the song. But ultimately, it saddens me in regards to the feeling inside Poland, thinking that they had a choice and they never actually did. And the artists competing. How the hell are they going to get any credible artists next year to compete if they do another national final, which I'm assuming that they shouldn't. But yeah, it's disrespectful to the Polish people. It's disrespectful to the artists. I get that. And I'm not doing this video as a way of kind of peacemaking. I don't think there's any peace to be made here because I like the song, end of. But I do feel that there will be a small minority, potentially, of subscribers on my channel that might not be in the know, might not be following things on social media in regards to how this won. And as a result, it's probably morally right to do some content, a video, that basically goes through the things that I now know to kind of make sure that people know. So I think, you know, I'm going to go through kind of 8 things that I now know that I didn't know, which would suggest that TVP have continued to disappoint me. Number 1, I do now know that the airtime Blanka has got with this song on TVP is completely unfair. So you can go on to YouTube and there are other occasions where Blanka has performed solo, where other artists competing haven't done that or haven't had that chance. Now, national final should be fair. That's unfair. So for that reason alone, this national final stinks. I'm under the impression that this is probably true now because I've seen it in quite a lot of places. But a few people did comment saying that the publication of the winner was made at 3:33, 2 hours before the show even began. Now that has been propped up in quite a few places, but I also know how fake news works. So I'm going to go on the side of that might be true. And basically, if that is true, what? What? That's probably the biggest indication that this was rigged to begin with. Number 3, which I'm seeing time and time again, is the link between Blanka and not only jury members, but jury member family members. So she was sat next to Edita's son, right, who was the choreographer, and Edita is one of the judges. How does TVP not realise that that's not okay? Like, whoever's produced that show needs to either get a lesson in common sense or, moreover, be accountable for that, because that's shocking. That's absolutely shocking. That should never have happened. And if you're going to rig it, be a bit more clever about it. Number 4, changing the rules 4 days before. I can't remember specifically what changes were made, but I know the changes that were made last minute, which is also slightly weird, would suggest something fishy going on. And the changes did give Blanka the advantage. So that's strange. And again, artists competing. If you're told 4 days before, oh, the voting is changing, you'd be like, what? Like, how disrespectful is that for the artists? That's not okay. Number 5, I'm going to take with a pinch of salt because I haven't seen any concrete evidence in regards to the televote numbers. I think based on what I could hear in the audience and also the amount of anger we're now seeing on YouTube, it's not out of the realms of possibilities that Jann wiped the floor with the televote. So I've seen a figure 18,000 versus 6,000. I haven't been able to corroborate that. I don't want to spread fake news. But ultimately, with that logic, Poland are sending a song that unfortunately has not got the backing of the people. Now, that seemed to go in Spain's favour last year because ultimately Chanel did well and all those kind of haters generally either silenced themselves or came around to it. I don't see that happening with Blanka. Blanka is no Chanel, unfortunately, unless something dramatically changes with how she performs that song. But I also feel sorry for her. Like, it is evident that this is rigged. To what extent she was aware of it, I've seen places whereby maybe her record label may have known, but I don't know whether she did. And if she is innocent in this, then there's nothing worse than going to Eurovision, representing your country, knowing your country's not behind you. That's horrible. And I kind of saw that happen with Chanel, and it was not good. It was not good. But this is different because this is a huge majority that is not behind Blanka. I don't understand how Jann got fourth in the jury. I mean, if this was objective, because that doesn't make any sense. Based on what I've seen, I don't think it deserved fourth in the jury. And ultimately, fourth in the jury rules them out completely. So the way that obviously TVP did the scoring, so basically the jury points and the televote points were calculated into kind of 12-1, which meant that even being fourth in the jury, he was out. He was out. I mean, Blanka, you can't escape the fact that Blanka has 10 million views on YouTube. She was never going to get 0 televote points. She was always going to score okay in the televote. So it was almost a foregone conclusion that putting Jann in fourth would rule him out completely. And then to what extent was that a deliberate thing that happened? And on that note, Blanka getting first in the jury, that doesn't make sense either. So what criteria did they use to judge it then? Because I saw Alicia's, whilst I'm not a huge fan of the song, the vocals were outstanding. And moreover, watching all of the songs, jury bait, Dominic. I would have given my 12 points to Dominic because vocally sound, song, radio friendly, pleasant, and whereby I feel Blanka can divide, whereby I think Jann can divide, I think Dominic doesn't. I can imagine Dominic being second or third with the juries and then coming out on top. So, and that leads to my next point, is in what criteria were they using? Because to put Blanka on first for the jury is odd, but also not releasing the jury scores. Because how many jury members were there? 5? So you could have a world where 3 of the jury members had Jann in first, but 2 of the jury members having him last. And as a result of that, that's why Jann came fourth. But we'll never know. So that needs to happen. I think some transparency. If TVP are going to save their arse, which they probably aren't, they probably don't care, but the least you could do is release those jury points. And it would be quite interesting to see those. So yeah, those are the 8 reasons why obviously the way that Blanka won stinks. I'm not going to apologise for my initial excitement. I'm not going to reverse my feelings about this winning, but I'm certainly going to acknowledge how it's won, and I'm certainly going to state that is not okay. Fact checks. So I've seen a couple of things on Twitter and a couple of things on YouTube. I'm like, not sure that that's actually true. So maybe someone can help me. So the first one is the televote scores. So the televote numbers. Do we have those? Are they out? Because I would really, really like to know that. Number 2, a lot of people are saying that Jann was rejected by TVB because of LGBT reasons. Now, as far as I'm aware, Jann doesn't identify as LGBT. He has a queer aesthetic, that is for sure, but he doesn't. So I can see why there might be some suggestion that this result or this kind of anti-Jann or working against Jann was the TVP saying they don't want anything to do with Jann and Jann's identity and Jann's image. I mean, I've told you TVP are known to be homophobic generally, so that wouldn't surprise me, but Jann isn't. He just has a queer aesthetic. But on that note, when I spoke to Ochman last year, every broadcaster has to work very closely with their artists, and I know TVP work very close. So some other countries, normally the artists have their management, or the broadcaster steps back a little bit and allow other people to kind of take control. TVP don't. So they also want an artist that they can work with. And I wonder whether that was discussed, whether TVP felt that they could work with Jann. Because it's evidently rigged. I'm just trying to think of some of the reasons, and I'm not taking TVP off the hook. Homophobia definitely probably plays a part, and it's not to do with his identity, it's to do with his queer aesthetic, potentially. The other thing I need a fact check on is Gorniak, Edita. So ultimately, I did see somewhere that someone said that she said before the final that she couldn't in good conscience vote for Jann. Now, for some people, that again would come across quite homophobic. Now, she's a lot of things. She's a lot of things. Unfortunately, she got involved in that spat, didn't she, with that transgender person at the train station, where she said some very transphobic things, which is unforgivable. By the sounds of it, it was a stressful situation for her, but obviously you still have control over what you say, and she said some pretty awful things. I haven't caught her saying anything homophobic, but I might be wrong. So I know she's talked quite a lot about God. I know that she prides family values. But I know when her son came out and said that he was against LGBTQ, she came out to clarify his views, to say that actually he's grown up around gay and lesbian people, that actually he likes them. He was just saying that he doesn't promote their nudity, alluding to gay pride. I can see maybe, if that is true, it's down to the aesthetics again, and basically her religious views and her kind of pro-family value views. But I hope she didn't say it, and if she did say it, she should have been disqualified. But we know that TVP didn't do this authentically anyway. So there was nothing to disqualify, because ultimately it was almost like the script had been written, apparently. But ultimately, any decent broadcaster, had that happened, would have to have stepped in and say, I'm sorry, Edita, but you are bringing in too much bias. On the last note, one thing I didn't say at the beginning, maybe I should. I spent 11 minutes this morning watching Tom, ESC. He did an amazing video on this. Please check that out. He's far more clear than I am. He's very structured in his points. And basically, he made an amazing point. Never have national juries. Never have them. All credible song festivals go with international juries. That way you can guarantee there are no links between the jury members and the artists. And number two, you want an international jury because it's the international jury that gives you a flavour whether your song is going to be successful outside of your country. So why they went for a national jury is beyond me. And there's something else he said which I thought was also very, very clear and evident. You should never let the national jury speak. So they were commenting on the artists after they performed, which sways the televote. That shouldn't happen either. Everything about this song festival was not good. It's embarrassing. Being part Polish, embarrassment's probably not the right word for it. But at the end of the day, I have to live by my first reaction. And my first reaction was I was happy with the result. So, yeah. Those are my thoughts. Thank you very much for everybody who has messaged and will continue to message to tell me about the context that I was not aware of. But hopefully this video kind of shows that I'm now aware of it. And yeah, it stinks. And if I was obviously in Poland, I would be bitterly upset. But when has TVP ever done anything of worth, in my opinion? I know that's such a blanket statement, but I just have huge issues with TVP. And the homophobic content that goes on their channel really upsets me. And obviously, when I saw that Mel C had pulled out of the New Year's show, I think that was, even though she didn't properly come out and say why, I think that was a reaction to TVP. And I've got some views on that, but I'm not going to share it now. But also, they're just close, interlink with the ruling party in Poland, which you don't have to go very far online to realise that the majority of their politicians have said something anti-gay in the past. So yeah, those are my thoughts. So yeah, it's done. I've said it. And yeah, happy with the song, disgusted with how it's won is all I can say. So yeah, until next time, stay safe.